hard about what makes your own nation different. You wonder whether the freedoms you cherish, the ability to move about freely, to say what you please, to associate with others at will, to worship if you so choose, are fragile and transitory. It's a fear inherent in every open society, I suppose. This is why we carve inspirational odes to democracy in the stone walls of memorials to Jefferson and Lincoln. They are a tribute to our own doubts, a hope that marble and granite will give permanence to those words and ideals, even if we ourselves might not always defend them. The blossoming of newly free societies at the end of the 20th century also encouraged me to put away some of my doubts. The collapse of the USSR and the great wave of democratization that followed it in the 1990s was supposedly the third wave of human liberation after the great social revolutions of the 18th century and then the defeat of fascism in the 1940s. Heading into the new century, it seemed that the only question was how fast democracy, in its various iterations, could now spread across the globe. I didn't believe that we had solved all of life's problems, just one of the biggest facing us at the time. There will always be authoritarian governments as long as there are corrupt and evil human beings. But absent a nightmare like nuclear war or mass starvation, I was confident that in the post-industrial world, we were no longer arguing over whether liberal democracy, the kind based on tolerance, trust, and inalienable human rights, was here to stay. The fall of the authoritarians and the surge of liberal democracy might not be Francis Fukuyama's end of history, but it was progress and it was in the right direction. Maybe we'd finally learned our lesson as a species. Or so I thought. I watched with sadness as the brief Russian experiment with democracy hardened back into Vladimir Putin's dictatorship. But I hoped that Russia was the exception. The idea that democratization, particularly where it was already well established, could start to unwind still seemed to me to be unnatural. And yet, here we are. The condition of global democracy is now so precarious that one group of Swedish scholars at the University of Gothenburg has called the early 21st century a new wave of autocratization. My particular assumption that the United States would always look like the United States turned out, painfully, to be more a matter of pride than evidence. In the 1990s, my Russian friends used to scoff at my advice as an American about their constitutional issues, telling me that America was just too young a country to give anyone pointers about democracy. Yes, I would always answer, Russia is an ancient country, but a young state, while America was a young country but governed by a constitution that was established while Russia was still a land of tsars and serfs. I was confident enough in this fact that I did not hesitate to lecture my Russian colleagues on the virtues of liberal democracy. I am more reticent to deliver such sermons these days. There are signs of hope, even if they are small and inconstant. Illiberal populists, as it turns out, are pretty lousy at governing, especially during a crisis that demands a steady and stoic engagement with science. In the United States, in particular, voters saw a mismanaged pandemic become a politicized catastrophe that eventually inflicted a 9/11-level death toll almost every day, and as of this moment has killed more Americans than combat in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam combined. Partly as a consequence of this disaster, Donald Trump was driven from office with a record voter turnout. His party, however, gained ground, and if some 40 or 50,000 voters spread across just 4 or 5 American states changed their votes, Trump would still be leading the charge against liberal democracy from behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. Even if voters in the United States and elsewhere who once preferred such regimes are rethinking their choices, the damage is already done. The citizens of the world's democracies now must live with the undeniable knowledge that they are capable of embracing illiberal movements and attacking their own liberties as a matter of their own free will, rather than as the result of disaster or foreign conquest. Worse, the budding authoritarians who live among us now know it too. They've seen a demonstrated market for what they're selling. They'll be back, and the next time they'll bring glossier and better packaged versions of dictatorship than the ragged prototypes this first wave of loud and pushy salesmen offered. I'm asking you, the listener, to join me in a difficult look at ourselves as voters and citizens. And so before we begin, I'll add one more story here that I hope encourages you to continue on through the coming book. In the summer of 2012, my father was 94 years old. My mother had passed away many years earlier, and his health was rapidly deteriorating. An election was coming, and despite his fading vitality, Dad was